Michael with United Veterans Worldwide for another opportunity to meet with an incredible person. Mike with the Rude Awakening um, Instagram account that I found recently, and Mike and I had a conversation. I believe it was last week, Mike, maybe, and
Yep.
we talked through about his military experience. We talked through what he's doing currently to advocate for veterans and also for a very special cause that I'll have him talk through. So, Mike, will you introduce yourself to our global audience here today?
Hi. So my name's uh, retired Sergeant Mike Root. I was with the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry and also served with the Canadian Airborne Regiment. And I have a thing called the Rude Awakening Tour, and I drive all over the country in Canada, and I've started to drive around the U.S. a bit too. So, and I'm very pleased to be on your podcast.
Yeah, Mike, will you just give us a brief introduction into what your advocacy is for currently?
Okay, so basically, back in 2019, uh, a lawsuit was started against our government on a drug called mefloquine. Um, it's an anti-malaria drug. You might know it as a brand name, Valerium. So it was in 1992. They gave us. We were given the drug when I was with the Canadian Airborne Regiment, deployed to Somalia. We took the drug as a part of a drug trial, which we were never told. So um, took the drug. Fast forward, I took it again in 2005 in Afghanistan. So I had all kinds of issues. Name was added to the lawsuit in January of 2019. In March 2019, they were saying they had me narrowed down to one of 10 people to be some of their advocates going forward with the lawsuit. So I became one of the advocates. My lawsuit was filed in April 28th, I think, 2019, against the federal government for making us take the drug. So on the 8th of April, I packed a suitcase. I have a service dog. So a suitcase and a bag of dog food. We jumped in my truck and we left. And we started driving the country, going to like a town. We went to a town hall meeting because the law firm set up different town hall meetings across the country, talking about mefloquine, right? And I went to one that April, and there was a lady there that had vertigo, that couldn't get out of bed for 6 months, and she was still serving in the military. So for 6 months, she couldn't get out of bed because the place was spinning, right? So, dealing with all that, I kind of decided I wanted to start driving to see all my friends and tell them, and maybe not the economical way of doing things or but that's what I did. And I'm currently now, I've probably driven since I left, just trying to do some math here, say probably close to 350,000 miles in the last 5.5 years.
Yeah.
So I stay constantly going. I'll talk about mefloquine wherever I go, talk about the side effects, right? Because suicidal ideation is a big part of it. I did two attempts myself, right? With using pharmaceuticals, right? With antidepressants and everything like that. So, for myself, I'm no longer on antidepressants, and I'm on cannabis to sleep and to mitigate or to help my anxiety or any other issues. But yeah, so started driving, and started the page, and I was, at the time that I left, I was living at home, like staying in the basement, right? Don't come out, don't do nothing, right?
Yep.
The most I drove in my truck by myself was like 15 minutes, right? Probably down to the hockey rink to play hockey, or, go see a friend, 15 minutes away. That's it. And then, so when I drove, I didn't know how far I could go. At first, then I was driving across Canada to go see to see a friend, then for his Depart with Dignity. And then I just said, okay, well, if I have a problem and I can't make it, I'll just call a transport truck and have my truck towed to wherever I want to go.
Yeah.
I made it, and then that kind of, as things progressed in both in my healing, say, and in and just maybe getting used to life on the road or traveling, that things kind of improved in different areas, and I'm able to do more. So now I got a podcast on the go, interviewing people here and there about mefloquine.
Yeah.
So like I interviewed Dr. Remington Nevin in Michigan, right, out by St. Clair, and interviewed him, interviewed a couple people in northern Saskatchewan, interviewed another person back in Ontario. So doing that more, I got a banner. We have I work with a guy out of a recording studio in Vancouver. So stop in, stay there, and work on a couple podcasts, and then take off again. So I average a lot of miles. Last year I bought a brand new truck, right? A 2023 Dodge Ram 3500 long box dually, right? My warranty is now over. I have 175,000 kilometers, whatever that is, in miles.
Yeah.
I think the powertrain for another. Well, by the time I pull out of here, I won't have a warranty. So
Yeah.
but
Well, Mike, it has been fun to watch your journey since I started following you. You really do cover some distance, and not only are you covering distance, but when I look at the photos that you've posted, you're also connecting with veterans in every location that you're at, and for that advocacy and for that work you're doing, brother, I salute you. I love what your message is. I love the message of hope and recovery, and the connection that you're making. You touched on some important pieces here, Mike. You said you went through this depressive, isolated state where the effects of mefloquine really took its toll. And I'm going to have you in a minute here go backwards in time and talk about some of your military experience that really is unique to my generation's experience in the Middle East. You really had some different experiences, but I really want to thank you for what you're doing for Canadians and Americans together in sharing this message of harmful chemicals that we all have been introduced to and still have yet to see some of the side effects happen. But thank you for your good work.
yeah, you're very welcome. And you know what? It's because of the people I serve with, right? The extraordinary people that I serve with that drives me to go on and try to help others or to do stuff for people, right? Because man, we've served with a lot of incredible people, right? If you look at your career and you say, man, look at the people I serve with.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
that makes it that makes that part kind of easy, and and it's good connecting, because a lot of times, say with my page, I'll share a picture and then people are like, oh man, I haven't seen that guy in like 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Or things like that, and so people. And a lot of people say that they don't click like anymore. They're always paying attention, but they, not necessarily clicking like or whatever. So the numbers, can be pretty high for, how many people are paying attention and stuff. And So, it's nice, quite a few following. So then try to give positive information, positive stuff, things that can help people.
Yeah.
Too, right.
Well, I think it's working.
So,
I hope that my global audience becomes inspired by the work that you're doing and finds their own little niche where they can contribute and make a difference in people's lives. Mike, will you take me back in time for a minute, back to some of your early deployments and your early experience in the Canadian military?
So, I joined up in January 1988. I went to the 1st Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. It was a mechanized battalion, so we had some armored vehicles. And
were they personnel carriers as well as cannons on them?
Personnel carriers. So they were a Grizzly, ABGP. What's that all? Trying to remember the acronym for it. Anyways.
Yeah, mine's right here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a Bradley fighting vehicle. I was a commander of 4 of those in Iraq, so it's kind of hard to see, but yeah.
So I'd like the Bradley, but we only had on our vehicles, we only had a 50 cal and a 7.62, the old C5 machine gun that we had.
Yeah.
So.
Whereas we had a 30 millimeter cannon on the front of ours as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot to just wake up and say hello or whatever, right, to whoever.
You got it.
But that's what a smaller vehicle carried 10, same purpose, right, as the Bradley, but ours was a lot older generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my driver course on that while I was in that battalion. I'm not sure what else I did. I was only there for about a year, and then I did my basic parachutist course in March of 1990. And then they said, if you go do the course, you're going to go to the Airborne Regiment. And so I'm like, perfect, that's where I want to go, right?
Where was your training held?
So that was at the time, it was in Edmonton, Alberta.
That's where your airborne school is?
Yeah, so that's where it was, and then it's since moved to Trenton, Ontario.
Okay.
To a major air base in Ontario.
Okay.
So I did the jump course, got posted to like a little town, Petawawa, Ontario, just outside of Ottawa, and that's where the Airborne Regiment was. And we did a lot of the training was hard. We did a lot of we barely ever rode the vehicle. It was all walking, hopping.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So
I was airborne as well.
What's that?
I was airborne as well. Yeah.
Well, who were you with?
I was out of Fort Benning. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, we did that, and then prior, so like probably in the fall of '91, they were going to send us. We were going to go to the Western Sahara.
Yeah.
And to do a mission there. So we did all the workup training. They even gave us like the 2 weeks off prior to going overseas. And then we were coming back and then going overseas. We went on our leave, came back, and the mission was canceled. And then we went on Christmas leave. So then a year later, they came up and said, okay, we're going to do we're going to go to we're going to Somalia now.
Yeah.
So we started doing the workup training for that, and intermingled. I just interviewed a guy the other day. He was with 2 Commando. I was with 2 Commando as well, but then I went to a support platoon. I went to a direct fire support platoon, fired the 50 cals and the what else did we have? 50s and the 84 millimeter anti-tank.
Yep. And those are tripods. All of those are tripods, or
the 50 cal was so we had a 50 in the turret, plus we had a 50 cal with tripod to dismount with.
That's a heavy tripod.
84, yeah. We only had 3 people to a vehicle: a driver, a gunner, and a crew commander. And then we had the full 50 cal that we could dismount. We had and then we had the 84 millimeter rocket launcher and that. But so we had quite a bit of firepower for a small debt, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Our other vehicle had the same thing, but yeah. So we ended up deploying to Somalia. Then I left on like Boxing Day of '92, and flew from Canada to Shannon, Ireland to, I think, then we flew to Djibouti. I can't remember if they gave us ammo there or not then, and then we flew into Mogadishu.
Yeah.
And probably got there like, December 29th or something, 28th.
It's funny you say Shannon, Ireland, because when I was going to Iraq, our stop was in Shannon, Ireland. It's the only place I've ever been in Ireland or England, was just on that stop on the way there and on the way back. And I remember meeting a priest in the airport, and he was handing out little 4-leaf clovers that were laminated. And I said, "Give me 3 of them."
Yeah. No, that was on your way to Iraq?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Shannon.
Crazy,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. That must be, the militaries must use that as their
Their stopping point before they launch. Yeah. Yeah, that's great to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went into Somalia, stayed on the runway, living off the runway in Mogadishu.
So you drove in from Djibouti, which
We flew.
you flew into Somalia?
Flew into Djibouti. They may have bombed. We may have gotten a bag or 2 of ammo. I can't remember. I know the other guys did, and then we flew into Mogadishu and just on I think we were on a 737 or something.
Yeah.
But then once we were on the ground, we had to. Then we're just staying in tents right on the runway with your guys' big C5 Galaxy coming in at like midnight. Buddy was tearing down he had a bug net up, right? He thought the plane was about to land on us. He was going through his bug net trying to get out, right? But it was pretty interesting life, staying on the edge of the runway.
Yeah.
And at the time, they said Mogadishu was the busiest runway in the world.
Wow.
There was something like a plane landing or taking off every 20 seconds or something phenomenal.
And you're living on the runway at the time all of that's happening.
Yeah. So we were living on the runway waiting and then say for us, we were originally going to Somalia as part of a peacekeeping mission.
Yep.
Right? So all our vehicles were painted up white and had black UN on the side. So then they got loaded up on ships and sent over. 2 weeks before we were to arrive, the Americans went in, the Navy SEALs went ashore, and then the mission started. Then the mission became peacemaking.
Yeah.
And then, so then we ended up taking our wash basins and filling them with mud and with water and dirt, making mud and putting a paste over our vehicles, and then made them tan, right?
That's how you did it?
The sun. Yeah, so then the sun would bake.
Yep.
Would bake it onto the vehicle, and it would last, say, a couple of weeks, and it never rained.
No.
Like all the rainy season, but I mean.
Yeah, for anybody who's not been there before, and I spent plenty of time in East Africa, including the borders of Somalia, and it is hotter than Hades, and there are so many rocks everywhere. It's almost like being on the moon, where I made a joke like I could step on rock to rock to rock to rock, and I could have hopped across the whole eastern side of Africa. Never rained. It was just blasted, dusty, and hot.
Yeah. And then everywhere you go, it was like there was there was a bridge. There was like a river, a dried out riverbed, right? Everywhere. And it's like, but there's nothing, right? There's
Yep.
one main river, what was that one? Shebeli River that flowed through Beledweyne, which was the town that we're around. But, like nothing, right? And then everything was just like a dust bowl. And,
Yep.
and then the rainy season came, and, you know, we had guys out on patrol. So they'd take it, they're out, I think there was probably 3 or 4 vehicles. They were all set up, put their cots outside their vehicles, set up, you know, going to ground. It's raining. There's now a foot of water on the ground. So they're packing up their cots. Now they're inside the vehicle. You know, in the morning they get up, okay, you know, the sergeant gives the, you know, let's move out. And the vehicles just went boom, right? Like moved off the hard ground. And then as soon as they drove forward, they sunk down in. And then they basically had to they used explosives to blow dead men's holes. So a hole in the ground, and then winch the vehicle forward to the hole, blow another hole, winch the vehicle forward.
Sounds miserable.
So they got up on high ground, and then they were there for 2 weeks. They had to fly food into them. They were like in the middle of a lake, is where they ended up being.
Yeah, it rained twice when I was there for a year, and yeah, you're right. It was a massive like flood.
Yeah, it just filled our, like, we had trenches and everything dug around our tents. They like filled right up. It's like a lake.
Yeah.
Even within our tent.
Yeah, that's craziness.
Yeah, insane amount of water, of rain. So, yeah, and that was an interesting mission, right? I mean, at the end of it is when the Pakistani peacekeepers were slaughtered in the streets in Mogadishu. So that 17 or 21 of them, I think, right? And they basically ran out of ammo because I think they were only allowed to have 1 mag or 2 mags on them, and they ran out and were all killed. Gunships were flying overhead trying to help, but
and that was after the U.S. had already had their.
No, this is leading up.
This is leading up to it still. Yeah. So we still have the warlord who's running things and withholding food and withholding resources from the population as a tool, a tactic to make them concede to his power.
Yeah. So Mohammed Farah,
yeah,
I think was the one warlord.
Yeah,
and then it all depended on what money was used. Then you tell which warlord was which, or in what area you might be. But so like at the end, so they killed the Pakistanis there at the end, and then so that was like in June, I believe. And we were leaving somewhere in there, and at the end, anyways, we had a big briefing. You know, what the Recce platoon commander came in telling us, you know, General Adid's got 10,000 troops. He's going to push the UN into the sea, so that so to get ready. We're probably going to be in a big fight. You know, get this gear ready. That gear you may never see again.
Yep.
And we had all kind of like, we're getting ready to leave, so we're slowly, you know, you only got, you know, maybe you have 5 mags on you or whatever. Then it was, and at the time, a law changed in Canada about having like a 30-round magazine or whatever. So they outlawed the mags, the 30-round magazines, and all of us, because we had the plastic mags, we used to get the metal mags from you guys. We'd always try to get metal mags, better mags. So they all became illegal, and all the mags that we would have of our own would actually have to be locked up with the weapons, right?
So Canada passed a law that the military in a combat zone couldn't have a 30-round mag?
No. Like back in Canada, we weren't allowed to have a 30-round magazine
Okay.
or however it was. So then we used to take all our magazines at home, right? You just keep it with your rucksack, with your wet gear.
Right.
But then they became a thing where it had to be, they have to be locked up, right? So then we had all these metal mags, so everybody left them behind in Somalia, so they were all boxed up, right? We probably had 3 or 4 big boxes of all these American mags. So when they threatened to push us into the sea, we cracked open all the boxes. It was like bombing up. We got Fallschirmjäger tunes playing. We're getting pumped for a fight, and then sadly they chickened out and didn't fight. But but I mean that's kind of where it was, and then so that was in June, and then really it led up to the Black Hawk Down scenario. I think that was really in was that in October 3rd, I think, or something like that. That was your they called that the Mogadishu Miles.
Yeah. It was a horrible scenario where our movements were extremely cut off and limited, and being chased by the enemy, who were mostly civilians with AK-47s, chasing our guys down for the last mile as they ran back to a supported cover position. Yeah, what a terrible event. But it's amazing to me that you were part of that historical buildup to what for us became a horrific fight. Produced some amazing stories of heroism. That still is part of our great history. When I enlisted I was a Navy first. I was Navy for 7 years. I was a corpsman, so I was the medic with the Marines. And when I went to go train as a corpsman with the Marines in Camp Pendleton in California, 2 of my trainers, the Marines, were guys who were there during the Black Hawk Down incident. And I tell you what, they did not have a sense of humor. When that came to us training medically for the worst scenarios, they about beat our tails to get us to be proficient, to be quick, to be to have no fear, to be responding to other people's injuries. And I can't thank those guys enough for the training they provided, which later on came in to be much needed when I was eventually in Iraq in the Army. But
yeah. It's well, I mean, I think in that Mogadishu Mile or whatever, that those guys took, I think it was 18 killed, 78 wounded.
it was bad.
Almost, everybody that went out was shot once or something, I think, right? It's
I don't know the population at the time of Mogadishu, but it's several million. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh yeah, it would have been. I mean, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of people, tight streets, urban warfare. I mean, no uniforms, civilians.
Right.
Yeah.
Say when the Pakistanis were in their fight, they stopped all vehicle movement because it was impossible, right? You could be swarmed just like that, right? So
yeah,
not a good place. I mean, we stayed even on the night of the Pakistanis. There was still firing going on at night, trying to, I think, whether they were probing or even doing stuff, some of that. But we were at the old port, and the old port only had like a platoon of. There's only like a platoon of Canadians down there watching it. And I think that section was away. So I mean, 20 guys are, trying to watch the area. So all of us that were down there with their vehicles, then we ended up doing security with them because it was, a lot of, a big area to watch, and thousands and thousands of people out there. Right? But,
so So did that put you guys on a constant like fight or flight scenario where you would hear something and you react and be ready and then nothing happened and then you're kind of brought down again and brought back up real fast and
I'd say a bit of that was going on, especially, getting all pumped for the big fight, right? When they're saying it's going to go. And this was all kind of right happening as we were getting ready to leave the
yeah,
theater.
yeah,
So within a week of that day, the other dog. Sorry,
no, you're good.
dogs are making a racket. Yeah, so sorry, I lost where I was at now.
No, you said you were just about to leave and you were building up for this big fight that just didn't end up happening.
Yeah, so,
But thank goodness it didn't, Mike, because
yeah,
that the number of forces that were going to come against you or us potentially, were just so much greater. It would have been 100-1 or 200-1.
yeah, probably not the best numbers, but we were definitely up for it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. That's what makes us different, Mike. when we talk about comparing the small, less than 1% of people who join up and serve, when you say we were ready for it, we're ready to face whatever odds come our way, confidently knowing that our training and everything led us to a point where we could do what we needed to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was quite a time. I mean, all the forces that were in there that went into Somalia, say, on a humanitarian mission, if you would. In a way, it doesn't make sense on the troops that you send for a humanitarian mission, right? So, we went in. 10th Mountain was there. There was a few ODAs that were in. One was attached with 2 Commando, so they did the workup training with 2 Commando as well. It was almost a bit of like the first Special Service Force, right?
Yeah.
British American or Canadian American unit, right?
Yep.
So
Rangers were there. I mean, everybody was just staged.
Rangers were there. We ended up, when we went to leave, German Fallschirmjägers came in to replace us, right? The Italian Folgori were there. Their paratroopers were there. The Belgians were there. It was, it was a lot of special forces really working in the area, but no, for a humanitarian mission.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
No government, no nothing.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
we were the ones walking around with the big sticks.
Yep. Somalia is such a strategic location when we consider Europe, we consider the Middle East. Djibouti ended up being the hub where U.S., Japanese, I think it was German as well, had their headquarters for that location to launch into Yemen and other locations, but I think that's why we got involved so heavily, as we wanted to secure a foothold on that eastern side for strategic reasons.
And even you look at the Somali pirates, right?
Yep.
If they can almost be shutting down shipping, right? Just by, companies not wanting to risk running the gauntlet.
Right.
Then how important is the area, right? On a strategic level.
Yeah, major shipping lanes. Yeah, and they disrupted it for a long time. Yeah.
Which is, kind of, don't quite understand how that goes on, right? But
yeah, I've got a lot of Somali friends. I have some subscribers here that'll be Somali as well, and when you come from an area of the world where there just aren't a lot of resources or jobs or they do what they got to do to survive, and sometimes they chose going up against big companies, big governments, and it ended up costing them a lot. But their heroism, their courage under fire was incredible. Given the lack of training, resources, etc. So they became a formidable enemy because of their numbers, not the individual itself. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that whole area, right? We ended up at one patrol. I think we ended up in a town in Ethiopia. I think
Oh, really?
that crossed the border, right, somewhere.
Yeah.
But and then even like at the Ethiopian border, like they had like a trench system blown out of the rocks, and had there's a few spots, right? There was a battle where a bunch of wrecked tanks were near the border, things like that. But interesting area.
It is. It is. I have many stories from those regions roundabout, including the neighboring Eritrea. Yeah. I had several run-ins.
Yeah, very interesting. Interesting area.
Yeah.
There's a lot to live there, and then just see, how they have the camels like we have cattle.
Right.
Same purpose. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, you know what? One of the things I'll never forget about that area is when they would bring the camels over from, let's say, Yemen, when they would ship them to the eastern side of Africa. There would be camels that would die along in that little straight area there on the ocean, and they wouldn't dump them in the ocean. They would bring them onto land, and then they would burn them. And the smell of burning camel, I'll never forget. It just permeated the whole area.
Huh.
Yeah.
That would be so nice.
not so nice at all. So tell me, from Somalia, what other locations did you end up serving and going to?
After that, I ended up going to Bosnia, just on one of the going around inspecting weapon sites, things like that. Nothing. There wasn't much going on at the time.
What year was that? 94?
97.
97?
Went there in 97. And then, I'll say 97. And then I went to Afghanistan in 2005. And that was, went over there. We took over from an American provincial reconstruction team.
Yep.
In Kandahar City. So went in there, took over from them, and then did that for 7 months. So, and then, the funny thing is, say, I took mefloquine in 1992 or 93 in Somalia.
Yeah.
Then I never thought I had problems, right? So I thought my diarrhea was from eating ration packs for 7 months. I thought the insomnia was because it was too hot to sleep there, right? I think when I was there, I probably went to bed at 2 a.m. and got up at 6, right? Pretty much every day. Everything I attributed to something else. So one of the major things I thought with mefloquine was the nightmares, right? People would have some people would have the opposite effect in a dream, but mostly it was a violent nightmare. I never had the nightmare, so I thought, okay, I'm not affected by the drug.
Right.
But so I went again so when I went to Afghanistan, I took it again. And there, I know I had a couple medical issues where I had to go to the UMS, hooked up to IV, pretty sick, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be surprised if it was a pill day, right, from the mefloquine.
Yep.
So, back in 97 or 98, one of the TV companies, the State, I believe it was, did an episode on Mefloquine, and which I didn't know at the time, or anyways, the lady that was in charge of Health Canada resigned her position over the fact that they passed Mefloquine out into the public.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She resigned.
Yeah.
Because of all the different incidents that went on in Somalia.
Yeah.
While we were taking it.
Yeah.
Right? So
you guys became the guinea pigs for that drug to be tested, and despite having side effects, big business, big pharma still pushed it through.
Yeah. So they still pushed it. There was all kinds of side effects, all kinds of issues that happened in Somalia. There was 28 significant incidents, right? So for one, right? So the drug since then, say in 2015, they a bunch of people internationally formed an international Mefloquine alliance, and when they formed that, the drug company then changed Mefloquine to a black box label, which means that it's a drug of last resort.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
But up until then, they continued to push it. They had people, countering any argument that the drug was bad. But anyways, they came out and they said, the drug should not be taken while operating heavy equipment. You should not take it while you're in the desert, right? Shouldn't take it in the heat. You shouldn't drink on it. And Canadians were allowed to drink on tour.
Right.
Guys were drinking, and they brought it right up to say you shouldn't drink at all on Mefloquine, right? And guys were drinking on it. But anyways, so fine motor skills, say if you're driving an armored vehicle, the vehicle could be, might be deadly at 10 kilometers or 10 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. It's definitely deadly, right? It all depends on the speed you're driving. But in my opinion, a rifle, your assault rifle that you're carrying, the minute if the trigger is pulled at any point in time, it's deadly.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So as long as you're carrying it, it's deadly at all times. So if you're supposed to not use heavy equipment because of the fine motor skills, well, that same fine motor skill, I think, would apply to your assault weapon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, while we're there, some guys were cleaning their weapons. The guy didn't clear his weapon, shot and killed his friend when we were in Somalia. Killed
Brutal.
his best friend. The guy named Mike Abel was shot and killed by accident while the guys were cleaning weapons, right? An armored vehicle, as they were approaching a village, accidentally fired off their main gun into the village, right? Numerous other accidents went on, right? Accidental discharges, things like that nature, and the drug was passed, right? So they did that film in 1998, talking about how bad it was, and at that time I said, no, I don't think it's you should own up to it. You did it, right? It ain't the drug that did it. You should own up to it. And then fast forward to 2019, and then I was on a W5, another media company. W5 did an episode on Mefloquine again called Guinea Pig Soldiers.
Oof.
So myself, I was on it, a guy named Richard Schumann, and then retired General Romeo Dallaire, who's kind of the face of PTSD for Canada, if you would, for the military laws. And he was on it when he went to the mission in Rwanda, and he asked to come off the drug because he said it was affecting his decision making and was having problems with it. And the military said, no, if you stop taking the drug, it'll be considered self-inflicted wound and you'll be charged. Right? So there you got a guy at the top of the food chain being told, no, you'll take it just like everybody else, or you'll be charged. So, what's going to happen for a private, right? They ain't going to have a choice.
Nope.
So, yeah. So then in 2019, that one was out, and now I look at everything that went on in Somalia as really, due to whatever the drug was affecting us, right? People were having hallucinations there.
Yeah.
Right? Even to say that people have told me that went to Afghanistan 15, 20 years later, that the thing they hated worst about the drug was the hallucinations. Right?
Yeah.
So they were still taking a drug, still giving a drug that was causing hallucinations. Right?
And
that was causing issues.
And you told me on the phone that there was a case at Fort Bragg with some Green Berets that had all come back from a tour. And yeah, will you tell that story?
Yeah, so like I believe it was in 2003. I believe one was a Delta Force operator, but it was all kind of the SF world. I think 3 of them were special forces at least.
Yep. Yep.
So in the course of 6 weeks, four members killed their wives. 2 of them killed themselves. A third one killed himself in custody, and then I think the 4th one eventually did as well, right? One guy was even in Iraq saying, "Listen, I got to get home. I got to go home and save my marriage. Can you please send me home?" Sent him home, and he went and killed his wife and then killed himself, right? Like, so that you say methylquin, the drug, the suicidal ideation just pops in all the time, right?
It would be one thing if there was one person who this redeployment came home and something happened, PTSD, whatever, and they kind of lost it. But when you have 4 in that
in 6 weeks,
that blows the statistics out, and it says obviously this was a psychological drug that affected the decision making, causing panic, causing violent reactions, and this is the outcome.
Yeah, paranoia, right? Insomnia, aggressiveness, 34 side effects altogether.
Oh God!
So you had the four murders there. And then it was like, what just happened, right? So They did a big investigation into what happened, and methylquin was one of the things that they were looking at. I know 3 of the 4 guys did take methylquin, right? So the drug can cause homicidal and suicidal tendencies, right? You look in Canada, probably, I'm not sure how many years ago that was, probably 7 years ago, maybe, or more. A guy named Lionel Desmond, who took methylquin, who complained about methylquin when he went to the last veterans hospital that we have in Canada, that was in Montreal. And he was complaining about methylquin there. He was then at home, went in to see Veterans Affairs, seeking help. They never gave it to him. He ended up murdering his wife, his mother, his daughter, and himself, right? Once again, same thing, right? Took methylquin, complained of methylquin, said he would rather pick up dead bodies all day than take the drug. Right? So when you're almost even like that's a pretty strong comparison to say how much you don't want to take the drug, right?
Yeah.
And
And that's not PTSD speaking. That's something different. PTSD that has led to the suicide of some of my friends wasn't the case that their minds were saying, I want to kill my whole family. Instead, it was PTSD saying, you're no longer valid. You're no longer needed. You're better off not being here, right? Not let's kill everybody. So if there's any government group that's trying to associate this type of behavior with a PTSD versus an effects of a drug that's psychosis induced, then we really need to separate those symptoms and say this is something different.
Yeah. No, it's and say that's the problem. So PTSD, say they have treatment for it, right? They say you can get over it. The treatment for PTSD is not the same for methylquin poisoning or quinism.
Yeah.
So antidepressants are supposed to be not good for you, right? So they're already not good. And even if you're taking them, right? So I went and I did a ketamine treatment, which was ketamine is like they use it as a children's anesthetic. Right? You'll also hear them say it's a horse tranquilizer or whatever, but it's used as a anesthetic for children because it doesn't affect the respiratory system.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that same with somebody with a serious injury, like they lost a leg or whatever, then they're worried about the breathing and stuff. That's what they'll use. But I took that, and that like did a lot for me, right? But so I'm not sure where I was going with that. Sorry.
No, yeah, you were just saying that there's some treatment for PTSD.
Oh yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. I don't believe that PTSD is ever something that can fully be overcome. I think that symptoms can be minimized through treatment, and I'm a big advocate of therapy. I'm a big advocate of using medication initially, but I'm off of that medication now because it affected too many other parts of my life, and so I'm off that. But I'm doing other holistic things that I feel like make a difference for my PTSD. One was exposure therapy. Operation Healing Forces is a group we have for special operators who have gone through their trauma and are starting to recover, and they helped out a ton. Home Base is another program here in the U.S. that I attended that really helped me overcome some of the symptoms. But ultimately, what we're talking about here, this poisoning, is something so drastically different.
Yeah. So it actually does damage to your brainstem.
Yeah.
Right? The medication then is kept in different parts in your body. I think it's stuck in your liver. It's in your crosses the blood-brain barrier in your brain or whatever. So I mean, as for treatment-wise, there's stuff like they talk about Loretta neurofeedback is supposed to help. I tried a little bit, nothing really that's done anything for me. The ketamine definitely helped a bit with the anxiety and stuff. But there's another one, and they say it's really good for operator syndrome as well. It's called the dual sympathetic reset. It's a doctor out of Chicago who started it. I think Dr. Lipov. I could be getting his name wrong again, but basically what it is, because then there's a book you can listen to on it. It's called The Invisible Machine, talking about your sympathetic nervous system. And basically they're doing an injection into your neck, into your L1 and L3 or something like that. And then they'll do it on the other side. And I think, because you're always switched on all the time, the button never comes off. And then, so what they do is it's like an anesthetic, and they inject it into your neck, and then it like releases the button. So apparently you can do it while you're awake, and you'll have like an extreme emotion come over you as the button comes off, I guess, right?
Interesting.
or you can do it and then wake up that way.
Yeah.
But it's really supposed to make a big difference. And, you know, a lot of the, like, say, the selling point is, or that it's meant for people with operator syndrome, really, because the button never gets turned off. You're on it all the time. So when now you're out, or now you're living a normal life, but the button's still on and you're still acting that way or prepared to go that way.
Yep.
And
Yep. Very reactive. Yep. Sound, sight, everything, smell, everything can send it right back to 100%. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why, you know, even to say, you know, that's why I also don't think PTSD would be completely right, because you can have that smell come to you and
Yep.
you're going to be boom,
Right.
unless there's a break in with therapy or something,
Right.
where you don't have that reaction anymore.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's incredible, and I'm so grateful, Mike, that you've been able to share this education with us. I know, talking to you on the phone, that there were a lot of things that I didn't know, and you've helped clarify or even inform me on, and I appreciate you sharing all of that. You know, your military journey spanned a lot of years. How many years total did you do in the service?
28 and a half.
You know, I did 17 and a half before I got injured and had to have my shoulder replaced. And I felt like that was a long time.
Yeah. I did 22 and a half, like, in the regular Army.
Yep.
Then retired to, like, the reserves,
Mm-hmm.
but working up in Canada, we have what's called the Canadian Rangers, and they're kind of like the local, you know, local area experts from the north, right, on the coastal waters, or, you know, up in the far north.
Mm-hmm.
And they and there's actually a lot to learn from them, right? I went out on the land with these guys, minus 50, minus 55 on snowmobiles, going across polar bears, right, are everywhere, and these guys know how to survive, right? And it was pretty impressive. Even you know, in the military, you fill up your pot with snow and then you melt the snow or whatever, right? This guy's like, no. These guys were melting snow, and we jump on the snowmobile. We, you know, ride 200 or 300 feet down, kicks away at the snow like we're on a river, but that's froze over, right? And then he just goes to the side of the hill, kind of, and then kicks. So there's, you know, open water, like he just moved the snow away and then filled up the pot with fresh water.
So there's runoff from the hill that if you uncover, that it's melted underneath, but it's too cold with the air on top. That's brilliant. Yeah,
So
brilliant.
He's like, yeah, that took all of 5 minutes, like, to fill the pot. And I'm like, you know,
That's amazing.
you guys know all this, right?
Yep.
Or know where to look, right?
Yeah.
I would have been there melting snow.
Yeah.
Right? But he knew where to look and everything. And, you know, you get on the ice, and if the sea is on, so if there's like a storm going on, the ice will break apart and it'll look like a puzzle, right? So when you ride out and all of a sudden all the ice looks like a puzzle, it's like, then they do a straight beeline for the shore, right? They're like, yeah, something's going on, right? Then they wait, try to, you know, it might have been the night before, right? So the ice all broke up, kind of, now it's kind of coming back together, but that's a unique area to travel in.
You know, I spent some time in Alberta, and I remember there was a town, Fort McMurray, I think it was, where there was a river runs right next to it, and when it freezes, it sometimes breaks up and causes these huge ice cliffs to form and spill over onto the roads, and it was fantastical to see that type of a sight. So, yeah, I mean, I can envision what you're saying.
Yeah, I snowmobiled up that river.
Oh, really?
So, for a recruiting drive, kind of an extra kind of thing I put in and said, hey, well, we're going to snowmobile from Fort McMurray up to Yellowknife. So it was, say, 1,200 miles.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So we kind of went from town to town. We left on the river from Fort McMurray and went down the river. But the next place you come out into this like delta coming out onto a lake. Then you can get lost and blah blah blah. We were just kind of winging it. We had the old pluggers, but you have to have a map. But we didn't have the maps, so the pluggers were really no good to us.
Oh, jeez.
And then we went. And we thought we had enough fuel. We had one machine go down without fuel. I think, or two machines. So we left them, doubled up, moved on, trying to find the town. We got in late, then we had to go back and get the snowmobiles the next day. And yeah, it was a lot of, but up there what they get is called runoff. So the ice will have cracks in it. The pressure of the snow on top of the ice will push the ice down and water will come up through the cracks. And then will form a little lake below the snow.
Interesting.
So you're going along and then you start to kind of sink and it's a bit of water below you and then you get eventually we're getting stuck left, right, and center. We're rolling the snowmobiles over to get them out of the water and then go on further and yeah. It was turned into a lot of fun for a recruiting drive, right?
Did you make it to Yellowknife?
Yeah. By the time we got to Yellowknife, on that trip, I think we started with 6 snowmobiles, and we were down. Our last one, we were going to ride it out of town when we left, and I think it made it like 25 miles out of town and broke down. That was our last machine.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Yellowknife was occupied by what was the big? It's oil drilling or oil riggers up there, and
we got oil and minerals.
Yeah.
A lot of diamond mines and stuff around there too.
yeah. I heard of guys going up there and making some good money over a couple of months, but sometimes it's dark almost all times of the 6 months of the year, and then it's all light, so your body chemistry kind of changes. And
I went up there when I first started my drive. I went up to Tuktoyaktuk.
oh wow,
Which is on the Arctic Ocean. So you could drive there. So in 2017, for the 150th anniversary of Canada, they opened up that road to be able to get to Tuktoyaktuk. And you got to drive on about probably 800 miles of gravel to get there. But, it's a very kind of a different place to go to, right?
oh yeah,
When you start driving north, say from Edmonton, Alberta, right, to go to Tuktoyaktuk is something like a 40-hour drive north.
yeah. It's like a 2-hour plane ride, or maybe 3.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was how many? I think it's probably like 3,800 kilometers, right? North. You could drive the same distance south and you'd be in Mexico.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
Which is kind of crazy to think you drive right through the States and you'd be into Mexico before you went the same distance that you did north, right?
That is wild. And those are just Inuit villages up there, right?
Yeah, so there's smaller villages, and then when you get up there, you have the dew line, or not the dew line, but you have the frost line and stuff. So because the frost is permanently there, the permafrost is there. So you can't build your building right on top of the ground. It's got to be raised up because the heat from the building will melt the permafrost, and then the house will start to sink. So I went to Dawson City in the Yukon, or is that in BC or the Yukon? In the Yukon, I think. Yeah, Dawson City in the Yukon. And it's, so they built it during the gold rush and everything. So some of the buildings are just built on top of the ground. Well, now they're like 1.5 feet into the ground.
Wow.
Because melted and the building is shifting, right? So up at Tuktoyaktuk, like my friend was with the police, the RCMP. So the building is on stilts and sits on stilts, and they still got to go adjust them like every day.
Oh my goodness!
The ground is constantly kind of shifting.
What a wild adventure! Like I said, you've had some experiences that no one else has had. I mean, how many people have been up to Tuktoyaktuk? I mean, I've never been up there. I mean, that is so far north.
Yeah, and to think, you're driving 40 hours north. For the same distance, you could be in Mexico.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. It just goes to show how big North America is, and when we talk about going north, like I said, most of us would never have known that there was additional life and survival up that far north. It's just not comprehensible to us,
Yeah. It's and up there, it can be too cold to snow, right? So when it's extremely cold, you're not getting the snow. But say on the Labrador side, when I was doing the snowmobile trips up there, in February, it's like nothing but ridges, right? The snow's kind of shifting and blowing, and you end up with all these ridges that you got to go over. But then in March, with the constant blowing wind, filling in all the cracks, filling in all the holes, then it was just like a sheet of plywood, or just like pavement.
Perfect for riding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Do 80 kilometers, 60 miles an hour, whatever.
That's crazy. Mike, thank you so much for willing to be on this channel and sharing these amazing stories that have just captivated me. In our last 2 minutes here, Mike, I usually ask our guests to kind of share their advice for people who are going through some recovery from trauma and trying to find a journey of wellness on their own, like you have done. What advice would you give to this global audience?
Well, I mean, first off, I would, if I took mefloquine, I would look at the signs and symptoms of mefloquine, right? To say, what can I do to fix that? Because that's my major issue. But,
right.
For me, it's about the healing and about trying to get better and doing things that help me, right? Or doing things that help others, right? To give back. When we're in the military, we have a purpose, right? We're the people that solve all the world's problems, right? Send us there or wherever, even within our own country, fighting floods, fighting fires, doing aid to civil power, doing all this. We're always there with the answer. We're always there. That's our purpose. And then when you get out, you're not part of the machine no more. You're sitting in your basement, and you have no purpose, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a reason for what you're doing. You can sit there and stare out the window all day, right? And it's not going to get better. So the only way, right, is to pick yourself up and get out there and try to find what makes a difference, what helps you, or to help others, right? Because helping others, then we can get that dopamine charge by, hey man, I just helped Michael out, and man, that made me feel good, right? So when you're helping people, you're receiving as well.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So, and the only way we can get through it all is if we stick together and we work together, right? And we're stronger as a team. You were never an individual in the military, right? It was always the team. When the team got in trouble, another team came to your help, right?
Yep.
You were never on your own,
Yep.
right? And when we get out, we have to keep those ties, and we got to reach out and help those people that need it, and or get help ourselves. So
Well said, my brother. I appreciate it, and I'm so glad to make a connection with you. And I hope we can keep this friendship alive. And if you get the chance to come down through northern Utah, I would love to see you and yeah, and take a picture. And
be careful what you're saying. I'm just going to write down where you are now. And
yeah.
Where.
Yeah, I'm in Logan, Utah. So all you got to do is just come south from Idaho, and that's where I'll be. So if you're up in BC right now, then you just come south. But yeah, if you're,
I'm headed over to. So I'm here. We're doing a Mefloquine rally. So once a year they'll have a rally talk about Mefloquine. Usually it's been in Ottawa, in our nation's capital.
Yep.
Now kind of moved it a bit. So they're having it here this year. I'm going to do that this weekend.
In Vancouver?
Then in Victoria.
In Victoria, on the island, yeah.
Yeah, on the island for Saturday, Sunday. Probably head back over to Vancouver on Monday night or Tuesday morning. And then Wednesday morning, I'm going to punch out and head to Idaho Falls.
Yeah.
So I think that's a 15-hour drive. I'm going to link up with Buddy. Wait a few days. Maybe spend a couple days there, and then I'm going to tow his utility trailer. He'll tow his travel trailer, and he said we're looking at a stop in Utah. Is that where you're again? Utah?
Yep. I'm about 3 hours south of Idaho Falls.
Pardon?
3 hours south of Idaho Falls.
Oh, you're south of Idaho Falls.
Mm-hmm. So if you're heading to Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to come right past.
3 hours south of Idaho Falls?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, I'll see you on the 27th, probably.
Okay. Yeah. 3
hours south. Yeah. And then if we can't manage to link up, if we can't fit in a visit in 3 hours after I take off from Idaho Falls, then I don't know what. We can't be very good soldiers.
If we can't do that, right?
if we have a problem with that, I can always stop on my way back.
Yeah.
I'll be coming north again.
Perfect. Well, we'll be in touch with that then, Mike. Again, thank you.
So we'll
figure
that one out. And do I have your phone number? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll share it once we finish the interview here today, and I'll send it to you so that you have it. And yeah, reach out to me and let me know the details. But we'll conclude the interview today. You've been incredible. I can't wait for people to be able to see this and hear these stories and become captivated like I have. Your experiences have taught me lessons, have been valuable. For your advocacy, I salute you, and my friend will reconnect here shortly.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for what you're doing, man. Going back through seeing some of the other ones, talking about PTSD, different ones like that. Those, it's through others that we, through people that we serve with, or, that's where we find our information, right? The military doesn't hand you, here's your paperwork. If you got a problem, call these numbers. Do whatever. If you need equine therapy, call it.
Nope.
We learn from each other, and it's shows like yourself what you're doing that it gets out to people.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
Keep it up. And I see you've already grown since I've already last looked at you. I think you were at 13,000, and then now you're at 15,000.
Yeah, I just hit 16.5 today, so yeah, it's growing fast.
Now you're climbing.
Yeah, well, I hope to have a wider audience eventually, So, and you're part of that, so thank you.
But it's good because different information or different, say even different modalities of healing come out of different areas. Right?
100%.
And if you're on a global, outreach, then you're going to get everything.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
So well done on that.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Much appreciated.
All right.
All right.
You take care.